Yeah, my name is Jun Iwasaki. I'm the concertmaster of the Nashville Symphony and the principal second violinist of the mainly Mozart Festival Orchestra, and have been coming there for years. I've lost count. I think over 10 years now. So
Right.
it's been a
And
while.
is this your first? I don't want to get too personal, I guess, but is this your first festival as a father, or was it the previous?
Previous,
Previous.
yeah,
Okay.
my son turns two in about a month.
Oh my
So yeah,
God.
this will be the second summer as a father. Yeah.
Right. And how's he doing on his scales?
Oh, um, nah, he hasn't started them
It's
yet.
just started,
Luckily.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, did you come from a musical family? Is that right?
I did, yeah. Or I am from a musical
Uh-huh.
family. My father is a cellist, and my mother is a pianist, and my aunt is also a pianist. So it was kind of in the household all the time.
Right.
I think I was listening to music in the womb, and
Yeah. Just
I
like
didn't really,
Mozart.
yeah, I didn't really start formally taking lessons probably till I was 5 or 6.
Uh-huh.
But there are pictures of me with instruments in my hands when I was 2 or 3. And
Right.
I think, my parents never really forced anything. I think I just felt like it was the normal thing to do because it was what they did every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So was there a moment, or not, maybe not a moment, but a time you can kind of remember about how old you were when you were like, yeah, I'd like to do this?
You mean as for a living?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I vividly remember it. It was late in high school. It
Okay.
was probably my junior year in
Mhm.
high school, and it was one of those years where I'd been taking lessons, all my life at that point since I was 6 years old. It was a weekly thing. It was a daily thing for me to practice before I went to go play with my friends, or make sure I did that, my homework, all this stuff.
Right.
But it was one of those years where my private teacher at the time, Philip Lewis, this was in Dallas, Texas,
Okay.
and he entered me, or he had me enter 3 or 4 competitions, solo competitions. Most of them were kind of local, Central Texas,
Okay.
statewide stuff, and it was just one of those years where I swept all of them.
Nice.
I won all of them, first prize, grand prize. And so I got the opportunity to perform with orchestras and got scholarships. And I was very lucky. It was just a good year. And I think that was that kind of light bulb moment where I said, you know what? I might be able to do this. Like, I feel like I'm good.
Yeah.
I kind of like didn't know where I was amongst other people. Um, but it was more along the lines of I enjoy making people happy,
Okay.
and I feel like I can do that by playing the violin. And
Right.
so I remember telling my parents, I think I want to like go to music school and go to like maybe a music camp, which I had been doing some summer festivals
Okay.
while I was younger, just to keep my studies going through the summer. And so that also kind of gave me that kind of push that I needed. But I remember telling them I wanted to go to music school and make music my career. And I remember them saying, "Are you sure?" It's very challenging. It's very
Yeah.
competitive. And I said, "Yeah, I think I want to try." And at that point, I was still keeping all my grades up, studying for the SATs. And then finally, when I decided to go into music, I think my grades did a little dip.
Sure.
Um, but it wasn't like I blew everything off. I had that integrity to try to keep
Right.
my grades up, but my practicing level went up, and my concentration to get into music school definitely took a uptick. So
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember how long I'd been going to classical music concerts when I finally realized you can't just do this. You can't just, hey, I want to be an orchestral musician and have that lifestyle, or that profession, I guess.
right.
The competitiveness of it never occurred to me as a general audience member. And then I don't know why or how I realized that I was like, this is kind of like the NBA or the NFL, as far
I
as
mean,
percentages of who makes it.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. I liked that analogy, especially for for musicians to be compared to athletes, because I think it's something that we put our life into. It's something that's very physical. Obviously, I mean, different muscle groups are being used in athletes, but it's also a level of like you're appreciating them for their talent, and hopefully like it's an investment, especially in an orchestra. Like you hire people that hopefully will be an investment for your team, for your orchestra, for the long term.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar to those athletes who are successful in finding those good contracts with the good teams. They see something in them that they want for that team. And I think a lot of that is similar in orchestra world, especially when you have these orchestra auditions where 200 people will apply for one spot.
Right. 200 qualified people.
Yeah. 200 people that are qualified, and then we have to boil that down to 3 or 4. And then we really need to then be very, very, picky and find the one person that we think will fit the situation that is at hand, or any orchestra. It's unfortunately, it's not always the best player wins. It's not like a race where whoever crosses the finish line wins the job. It really is a matter of who is the right fit for that situation. And so I just gave a class yesterday for potential auditioners, students, and I told them, don't be discouraged by one audition that you may not win. It's not always the right fit for both parties. You have to keep trying and find that right fit.
Yeah.
So.
And so beyond just becoming, let's say, a section player, there's the concertmaster, which is a big part of the mainly Mozart experience, is experiencing all these concertmasters. And I was doing some presentations at Rotary before COVID and trying to identify what the concertmaster is for people who, what is it? It's a little bit like the quarterback.
Yeah, if we're staying with the sports theme, I always say it is the quarterback, where the conductor would be the coach.
Right.
So the concertmaster, for people that don't know, is always going to be a violinist, and that just is a tradition from back when there were no conductors. The lead violinist would kind of start and stop the pieces. And then when the conductor evolved into being necessary, when pieces started to get larger and larger, the first violinist still had a role as kind of the captain of the musicians, kind of the on the field leader. And so that's a great kind of way to think about it is if you are into sports or football, the one calling the shots that has the ability to call some shots on the field is the concertmaster. But in more kind of broad terms, I would say the concertmaster is the liaison between the conductor and the orchestra, between all the rest of the musicians. It's also a lot of times the concertmaster is the face of the orchestra to the public, to the general public in that city. Very recognizable. A lot of behind the scenes work, meeting donors, meeting board members, making sure that, a lot of it is just making sure everyone's happy.
Right.
A lot of it is non-playing. And there are a lot of things that we have to do that don't involve our instruments, that are kind of understood as part of the responsibilities of being the concertmaster.
Got it.
Yeah. So
I have noticed on a few occasions, very rarely does a section player over emote the concertmaster when it comes to visual, like the kind of like waving in their seat, I guess, or swaying a little bit, which, with the mainly Mozart Festival Orchestra, it's awesome. Like the visual is such a big part of, and the enjoyment of the players in the orchestra is such a big part of the experience. But in like touring orchestras I've seen, or when I've been in another city, every now and then I see a section player just like going bananas, maybe a little bit over the content. Yeah. I'm like, is this a thing? Like, is it kind of understood you don't upstage? Is there an emotional leadership there?
I think there are two schools of thoughts. I think if you're able to watch videos or able to see live, hopefully sooner than later with this COVID thing, but if you see European orchestras, you're going to see more movement in the section. Okay. I think it's just a style of playing. I think it's a schooling that they're brought up with, is that you play with emotion, you play, I don't think they're trying to lead. I think it's different, leading and playing with movement. I think there are two different things. Okay. For some reason, though, I see it just like you see it in North American orchestras. There is a tendency for the section musicians to be more still, right, to show less emotion, to let the principals do that. I don't know how that started. I don't know if, I never thought that it was, I don't know. I think it's a double-edged sword. It really is. Because, you want everyone to play with feeling, but maybe somewhere along the line that there was maybe a conductor who didn't want that much movement going on. And so I really don't have an answer for that. I am in the,
well, you know how those conductors
that
they want everyone's eyes on them, right?
Well, that's a whole different story.
The conductors of the past, none who are currently living. They're all.
Yeah. No, I think I'm definitely more on the school of if the music moves you, mm-hmm, move with it. Right. Don't put yourself in a little bubble or in a box just to appease what you think is proper, I guess. Right. But that being said, you don't want to try to lead from the back. That can cause problems. And that kind of goes to the whole hierarchy of orchestras. It's a very old-fashioned, like, who leads who and who has the power to talk. And, it's very almost military in some instances. But there's an order of kind of just how things work that are understood. And one of those things is that you let whoever it is in your section, whether it's principal clarinet or principal flute or principal cello, questions go to them, and you don't ask questions from the back to the conductor directly. Right, that is very rude. It's considered just not a good thing. You don't. So there's an order. So maybe that's part of why more and more people, I don't know. I've not been in that situation, but where you just feel like you can't be yourself, which right. I hate. I would hope that everyone can feel like they can really play themselves to what they want. But, like I said, I think it's different in different parts of the world.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned, I emailed you maybe about talking about some violinists of the past with the hope of because there are different styles of playing that the trained ear, like you, or someone who's lived with the instrument, picks up on immediately, where someone like me, maybe who's more of a general audience member with some knowledge, I don't quite pick up on it. A lot of it's with the phrasing, maybe, of a soloist, what we might call sliding or portamento.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so first of all, yes, I do think there are certain sounds that kind of the old-time violinists kind of you can just recognize. I think some quickly that come to mind are Francescatti, Heifetz, Chrysler, Menuhin, Oistrakh. These violinists, luckily, I was listening to since I was a baby because my father and my mother would always put these kind of recordings on in the car, and I would just listen and listen and listen. So it was kind of that sound has been in my head for years, and I still try to listen to those to remember some things if there's a recording of a piece that I'm working on that they have done. Just to get that sound in my ear. It's not like I don't always want to emulate
Sure.
try to copy what they're doing, but just to have the knowledge that that sound is there, that it's possible.
Right.
Um, I think Heifetz is known for that kind of really tight, but really clear sound. And there's always, not only was his technique flawless and played everything quickly, and he always beat the orchestra to the end just because he could.
Right.
But there was always a sense of, people say that, oh, it sounds gritty, but that's because the mics were so close to him
Sure.
that you could hear the bow kind of being close on the string. And, if you're listening probably in the audience, you probably couldn't hear anything. But that kind of sound resonates with Heifetz. You immediately like, oh, that's Heifetz. You can tell by that kind of that sound. Then you have people like Chrysler and Menuhin, like you said, who are kind of known for their freedom and their kind of romantic
Right.
qualities, both in their fingering choices and the way they play, a little bit more stretched and rubato and taking time. And that's a style in its own, and it works for especially the stuff that Chrysler wrote for himself.
Right.
All of his transcriptions, his arrangements. And so when you get to hear him play his music, it makes sense. So yeah, there are definitely people that like grab your attention with their sound, much like singers.
Sure.
There are some of the old opera singers that you know immediately who they are. That's kind of what I think the generations of before, of violinists, cellists, pianists even have their own. Rubinstein,
Yeah.
you can definitely tell that it was him by his playing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's super interesting because it gets kind of maybe not existential, but definitely your values kind of come into play. Like, do you value accuracy above emotional? Because some of the old time opera singers, they're scooping, but it's not a scoop. Like, that was the style. Like,
right.
Maybe we learned in church choir or something that's wrong. Well, in choir, that is wrong. But it was absolutely right in that time.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like, you can see shifts in style through time. Like, what was, I don't want to say acceptable, because I don't think anything is unacceptable. I mean, outside of playing out of tune or like playing wrong notes. But I think when you talk about style, I obviously you want to be yourself. You don't want to be the one person that copies this person, or
Right.
You're only trying to mimic one style. But if you can kind of create your own style, that's, I think, always the best.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think there have been shifts in style, like vibrato. I think it's changed throughout the years.
Right. I love watching a section for who's given the most vibrato.
Yeah, and sometimes it's
yeah.
Sometimes, unfortunately, it's uncontrollable. But if you can really control your type of vibrato, it really can change the type of sound. And if you can control it and change it based on what you're playing, that's the goal, really.
We should probably define what vibrato is for a string player. It's the moving of the...
Well, you're staying on one pitch, and like as if you were singing, like that kind of wavering thing, wavering technique. And yeah, you do it with your arm, really. A lot of people think it's just in your fingers, but it's more your arm.
Got it.
And your wrist, and you just kind of create the little underlying vibrations underneath to give it it's to give it a singing quality.
Okay.
Everything that I always preach to students, or people that I'm mentoring, is anyone that's playing an instrument is probably playing it because they can't sing or are afraid to sing.
Okay.
So use that instrument as your voice and try to mimic the human voice, because in the end, I think, especially string instruments, are mimicking a singer.
Right.
We have the ability to mimic singing.
Right.
And I think having that in your brain, how would someone sing this melody? How would I sing this? How would I want to hear this if it was sung? Then try to do that on your instrument. I think you always have a better goal of achieving,
Sure.
rather than just playing what's on the page.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So now, but I think it's a difficult question for you. You have to make a choice. I think this is difficult, but so Tchaikovsky violin concerto or Sibelius violin concerto. You have to pick one.
Do I have to say why?
Sure.
Oh, I have to?
Well, you don't
Okay,
have.
well,
Yeah, you can just be like,
my answer would be Sibelius.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah. Easily.
Easily. Nice.
Actually, very easily, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some of it's personal, but I think Sibelius, I think that concerto is kind of a pinnacle of violin concerto writing. I think
Absolutely.
it was a big thing that happened to violin when he wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, Tchaikovsky is a great piece. It's just not my favorite.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I picked those two because the Tchaikovsky, I think, is definitely an audience favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's bombastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the Sibelius, it's a tougher nut to crack audience member and as a violinist, from what I've been told.
Yeah, I think Sibelius wrote that. I forget the story. I think. Well, yeah, he was not a very good violinist.
Right, but he wanted to be.
And he wanted to be. And so I think this piece was like, it's not like a, hey, you think you're good? Play this. But there are parts of it where I'm just like, I think he did this because he was maybe challenging the violinists out there at the time, or himself even. And so there are things in there that I think, yes, are difficult. But for me, it's such a beautiful piece, and it's so, they're both fun to play, and you feel great when you finish. Both ends of the concertos are big and fast and loud, and so the audience always loves them. But personally, I would, Sibelius for me.
Right. Okay. And then let's see, Nashville, your orchestra was one of the first to kind of announce, I think, that they were closing down. How much have you been able to play since then? And how much are you looking forward to this October festival?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we were one of the first orchestras to not only, I think most orchestras shut down around the same time. We were one of the first orchestras to announce a cancellation of an entire season going forward. So technically, our entire 2021 season is gone.
Right.
And we have been furloughed since July 1st. So the potential for no paycheck for over a year is there.
Yeah.
We're hoping that changes. There are talks happening, obviously, that within, I think, every orchestra, people are talking. But right now, the future looks a little grim for us. I'm hoping that other orchestras, and I've been seeing other orchestras sign new contracts and kind of just kind of put like ratifying certain things just to get through this mess. But we haven't gotten there yet, and we're hoping for better news soon. But as far as performing, I have been lucky enough to have been able to do something since the shutdown. I was out in San Diego in August to do one of the drive-through concerts. That was maybe my first live situation since March. But I have been part of a lot of recording projects that you've been seeing a lot of online lately for different organizations, because most of my summer festivals, including mainly Mozart, were either canceled or postponed. And so most of them did a virtual series, a virtual festival. Okay. And so I was a part of recording and editing a lot of things over the last couple months. And obviously, aside from the October concerts that we're going to be doing in San Diego Del Mar, everyone is excited about. I'm getting so many emails from all the musicians that are coming that they're just so excited to do something other than recording in front of a computer screen. And but the other thing is the musicians of the Nashville Symphony, we have created basically we've given our own opportunities for ourselves. We decided that since we've basically been separated from the Symphony Association, we said, hey, we can still do stuff. Let's do it on our own. And so we have been, with the help of the public and with churches and different venues, we are creating our own series.
Nice.
We are putting together chamber music concerts, hopefully soon, like chamber orchestra, once we have the limitations of gatherings rise a little bit more. But we are doing it all obviously for free, for volunteering, and we're just asking for donations. We created a fund of musicians of the Nashville Symphony Fund, a relief fund, basically, to help us out while we're not working. So there are live performances on the way in Nashville.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenging time for the arts. More so, I can't think of another section of the economy that is going to be more affected.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know. I find some things that have reopened. I'm grateful for a lot of things that have reopened, but then I think, well, if that opened, why can't this open?
Right.
And I get all the arguments. I understand the dangers and stuff, but if you're packing planes,
right,
why can't you put 100 people in a hall?
Yeah, exactly.
Much larger than an airplane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Obviously there are going to be people that can argue about this day and night, but I just feel that there are ways to do what we can do, and some orchestras are. I'm very happy to see some orchestras taking those. Yes, there's some risk and there's chance, but they're not giving up. They're not just waving their hands in the air and saying we're going to wait for a vaccine, because there are ways to start getting back into some sort of regularity of giving people music, live music, and keeping people as safe as we can, whether it's following guidelines. I mean, look at what we're doing in Del Mar.
Right.
We're still doing drive-through concerts, but we're giving them an opportunity to hear live music. Yeah. And from what I saw when I was there in August, people were extremely excited about it. And so I can't even imagine now the excitement that's going to be ramping up for the festival orchestra, which is kind of the pinnacle of mainly Mozart. It always has been. For them to be able to experience that and not miss a year is really cool.
Yeah. And the repertoire is great.
I looked at it and I was like, Michael.
Yeah.
You sure you're going to want it? And I was like, of course he wants to do it. It's Michael Francis. Like, he's not afraid to do anything. But I looked at some of it, I was like, whoa, I was not expecting some of this, but I'm obviously very excited.
It's the Beethoven number 5 was the one that really jumped out at me. I was like, well, okay, this is Beethoven wasn't the one that caught me off guard. It was like the Prokofiev and the Mendelssohn. Ah, okay. Well, the Prokofiev, I'm really interested in that one because previously, from 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, and it was like I thought it would be unsurpassed. Like I was like, all right, well that's it for the Prokofiev for me.
Well, here's the thing. I do remember we played it. We played in San Diego. And we took it to Mexico. We took it to TJ.
Ah, okay.
But we're so used to playing very tightly. Like we have all those musicians, and we use as little space as we can because we want to be close to each other.
Oh,
we can hear. Right. That helps us play stuff like Prokofiev as well as we did. I think it'll be very interesting having everyone on their own stands and socially distanced outside. It's gonna, it's one of those things where it's gonna be challenging. I look forward to the challenge though, because I know all of these musicians are gonna like overcome it and make let's be like, what we can still do this.
Yeah.
So part of me is saying, like, that first rehearsal, it's gonna be kind of a mess, but it's also going to be so much fun to figure out what we need to do to get to the level that we're so accustomed to.
Right. Yeah. And that is the one silver lining with this for orchestras and I don't know about opera as much. I mean, I've been in like a ton of opera, but I don't know how the organizations are handling it, is the interrupting of the status quo. Like, organizations are being forced now to make online content.
Right.
Whereas before it was kind of like, we don't do that, or we don't know how to do that, or it takes a lot of money to do that, or, there's a lot of reasons not to do that for classical music organizations. But now being forced by circumstances to work that problem out and hopefully be able to reach a broader audience and more significantly.
Yeah, I think for a lot of orchestras going forward, if it wasn't a part of their product, online products, it will be going forward. Even after the pandemic ends, I think online content is here to stay.
Oh, for sure.
I hope that it doesn't diminish the live content.
Mm-hmm.
That is the fear I think that a lot of orchestras are dealing with right now, is like, if we go this route, will people ever come back to the hall? Because then they're going to think, oh, why do I need to leave the house? I can see a live performance on my computer or on my TV screen. I don't think that'll happen, because obviously live concerts in all genres still exist, even with all the online content.
There's no buzz in the room when you're watching a stream.
Right.
You don't feel that energy of going to a concert.
Yeah, and it's very different. I mean, it's just, I've been watching some performances online. It's comfortable, but it's not the same as being there.
Right.
The only other thing that I worry about with everyone doing online is that you're competing with orchestras outside of your market.
Right.
As far as like your audience. So like, if we start doing online material here in Nashville, what's stopping them from saying, well, I have choices now.
Right. I'm going to get the Berlin Philharmonic Concert Hall.
And they've been doing it for a while, though. They've been doing it for a while, and I don't think we've lost any customers due to that.
Right.
But I feel like there could be a change, a shift, when they see, oh, I have New York, Chicago, Cleveland, San Francisco, LA, and Nashville. Like, maybe I'll do one once a month, instead of the same, when you have your local symphony, you go there.
Right. Well, repertoire would maybe play a part in that too.
Yes, I think repertoire will.
Yeah, Mahler's Eighth, I'm watching.
Yeah, repertoire and soloists, I think, might play a big role in that. But hopefully, people will be loyal to their cities, and if they can, obviously support other ones. But it's nice to hopefully have the support of our local audience really help us out when that happens. So.
Yeah, well, I've been so impressed with mainly Mozart and the support that they've gotten from their core community.
Oh yeah, when Nancy called me, it was back in July, I think, when she first kind of contacted me to see if I would be available to do stuff, because she had all these plans. She always has plans, which is just it's awesome for someone to not give up.
Right.
When the pandemic started, when you see so many other places just kind of shut down and just kind of go on to like a holding pattern, Nancy was like, no, we're breaking this mold and we're going to do stuff, because if there's a way and a will, we're going to do it. And she proved everyone wrong, and, was successful in really, I think, bringing one of the first live concerts in the country for a live audience. So I think she kind of like set that thing in motion. She set everything in motion, and with the help of Michael and obviously all the supporters in California to see through that this festival still continues. Even, it's going to be a different format, very condensed. I mean,
right.
Is it 4 programs in 10 days? Something insane like that.
Yeah.
But when you see the firepower that's going to be in this orchestra, it's no problem.
Yeah, it is. I always look forward to it every year. It was such a strange thing this year because it had a lot of momentum in our arts community getting started with a new venue for the symphony on the Bay.
Right. Yeah.
There's a new venue for La Jolla Music Society. The festival, mainly Mozart Festival, was had every single one of my favorite pieces of music scheduled.
Yeah, it was going to be a good year. Yeah.
But now to see this kind of adjustment and that it's continuing on, and to be honest, classical music has survived more intense problems than World Wars, Great Depressions.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
No, I think give it some time and things will get better. It's just right now the worst is the uncertainty. When you have even a war, or we've had natural disasters here. We've had floods and tornadoes, and even a recession in the economy. Usually you see an end to it, and you can say, okay, we can start rebuilding here.
Yeah, true.
With this, I think the worst thing is that no one knows anything.
Right.
No one really knows what the new normal will be. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
I think we just have to live with that fact that we're not going back to normal. We're starting a new normal.
Yeah.
But it's
especially here, I think, in the United States, just because of the way that it states, it's going to be different from state to state.
Right. So I'm just hoping that at some point we can normalize ourselves and everyone kind of get comfortable in being in the new normal, whether that means masks in the concert halls or no intermissions anymore, whatever it takes. I think, I hope that we get there sooner than later. It's just, I think the scariest thing is no one has an answer.
Right. Yeah.
No one has an answer of when will this end?
Yeah.
Will it ever end,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we're hoping for the best.
We are. And for sure, there'll be the best for 4 concerts here in October.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I would say if you don't have tickets yet,
get them.
Try to get them. It's
$45 for a car. So,
which is great because, you can pack your car. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they should. Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to show up with a bus.
I've saw trucks, people sitting on their truck beds and stuff. So,
well, appreciate it. Thanks for the time, and
thank
hopefully
you.
See you in October.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.